at the U.S. Cellular Center and go through the Skywalk and access your business, you are going to be allowed to go into your place of business via that parkade at the U.S. Cellular Center through the Skywalk tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. Only from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. can business owners and people from those places of work get into their businesses if they can access them from the Skywalk. You're asked to go to the U.S. Cellular Parkade to park your vehicle, and then you will be taken through the Skywalk system. I can only imagine how many businesses have files upon files and data and things that they need to get out of there. And this is an opportunity for you, if you can access your place of work from the Skywalk system originating from the U.S. Cellular Center Parkade. You do have an opportunity tomorrow, Saturday, from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. I want to bring on board Scott Sayville from traditionally our sports department, but I think you, like the rest of us, have become mini flood experts in all of this.
Yes.
And yesterday you went to Viola Gibson.
Yeah, they were full yesterday. They're full now. The shelter's full at Viola Gibson. Prairie has plenty of room, so we went out to Prairie.
Okay.
Let's take some video of that. Take a look at some video from Prairie High School if we can. They started with about 40 flood victims last night. They have over 180. It was a steady stream today, and I want you to take a look at all the supplies that have been donated. Toiletries, toys. Look at all the clothes. Piles and piles of clothes, shoes. They had everything there. This little boy found a pair of shoes that fit him, and for a split time that put a smile on his face, a brand new pair of shoes. See, they had plenty of food out there, a little spaghetti today. Plenty of volunteers. They did a great job. They also had a medical staff, and it's a good thing they did today because one guy was having a little problem there with his heart. They had to call an ambulance, but he was right. The ambulance was right there. If they had the, it was lucky they had the medical staff because they were able to get there. And I did have a chance to talk to some of the victims out there today. Tammy, your house is gone?
Yeah, my house is gone.
Where do you live?
111 Fifth Avenue Southwest.
And you actually drove by and saw it's completely covered?
Yeah, we drove by on the interstate and looked over to our right and saw that it was completely gone.
That'd be a horrifying sight, huh?
It was very humbling. Very humbling.
What did you have in there? Were you able to get anything out?
No. My dad came back and got us at 5:30 in the morning, and at that time the water was up in the basement, the lights were still on. So the electricity was still on. We weren't able to move anything because the breaker was 2 inches above that where the water line was. We just decided that we just needed to take our dogs and my dogs and get ourselves out of there quickly.
So you have nothing. You have insurance. I mean, is there any way of getting any of this back?
No.
Boy, that's tough.
We talked to Senator Harkin today, and actually came up and introduced himself to us, and he told us that that we're going to get help as soon as we can, but we don't know how long it's going to be or how much longer it's going to be rising. The river's going to be rising, so we don't know what's going to actually crest and start receding elsewhere.
So the toughest thing is not knowing what's next, huh?
Right. The toughest thing is the unknown.
Right now we have 189 residents is last count.
And that has gone up dramatically today, right?
Yeah, we were about 130 for most of the day, and then the last couple hours it's gone up dramatically. So right now we're about 189. We still have room. We can house 400 here. So if there are some people in need of a place to go, we would encourage them to come to our shelter here at Prairie High School. We had people coming in with nothing, and we made a couple calls. Target was here, and we were able to take care of those folks last night, and it was just amazing what Target and then the Prairie community, as you can see today by all these things, what our Prairie community has done.
This isn't easy on the flood victims, is it?
No, this is hard. We had a gentleman yesterday tell me, our floor was getting wet. He said, I thought I had about an hour, and that we probably had to go. He said he opened his basement door, and the water was right there. His whole basement was gone, and that just tells you right there. And you have, we had some 2-year-olds brought in, babies last night. It's very sad. It's a very difficult time for all of us.
That is Steve Dozier, who is running things out there at Prairie. He's also a basketball coach at Prairie, just donating his time and the school, and they're doing a great job taking care of people.
Speaking of which, thank you for bringing us that story. Steve Dozier, you're on the phone right now with Scott and I. Scott and me. Steve Dozier, are you there?
I am.
What can you tell us? Scott visited you earlier today at the Prairie High School where the shelter is there, and you had plenty of room. Are things filling up tonight?
Yeah, as of 8:30, we have about 220 residents up there right now. So we were about 130 most of the day, and we're up to 190, and then now we're about 220. So we do have room for more folks. We can take up to about 400, and we had and we may go over that if need be. We did have more cots brought in, so we're prepared for a couple hundred or 300 more if needed.
Steve, anytime you've put a call out that you needed either pillows or food or anything like that, it has been answered in abundance. So here's your opportunity again. Absolutely anything that you or the 220 people that are seeking shelter at Prairie High School need anything?
Well, right now I could tell you if there's any pharmacies out there, medication is a high priority right now. We have folks that don't have their medication, so if there's any pharmacies out there or any drugstores that could help us, I would encourage them to call the Red Cross so they could get that to us. So that is the greatest need right now, is to get some medication and prescriptions filled for some of our folks that really need it. So that's our biggest need right now.
Oh, I can completely understand that need. Can you describe what kinds of people you're seeing at the shelter? Is it a lot of children? Is it mostly people who are older?
Well, it's a variety right now, but we did recently just have some kids come in. I mean, I'm talking a 1-month-old or 2-month-old baby that's there now. They're a husband and wife were in an apartment, and now it came with their little 1-month or 2-month-old. So we're seeing a wide variety of elderly, and we've had some donations from furniture stores, so that way the elderly, we're able to put them in recliners and try to make them comfortable and those things. So we're seeing a wide range right now, to be honest with you.
Steve, what can you tell me about the gentleman that had the heart problem? Was that serious?
Well, he did receive medical attention, and they said that when I was there, that the medical team was working on him, and they seemed to say that I didn't get a final on how he's doing, but we did have he was receiving medical attention from our local fire department and EMT.
That is good to hear. Steve, this could stretch on for days. We could need that shelter to be doing the good work that it's doing for, they're thinking it could be even longer than a week until the waters recede and people are able, I don't even know if they'll be able to get into their homes to really live there. Is this something that they have told you to prepare for in the long term?
Well, nobody knows. We've asked that question many times, and we just don't know at this point. It could be a week, it could be a couple weeks, and we will be there for the long haul, and we'll continue to do that as long as there's a need.
Steve, over time, volunteers can suffer from signs of fatigue themselves. And do you feel that your volunteers are doing okay? What about you?
Well, it's been long days, obviously, but I tell you, when you see the people coming in needing help, you obviously don't worry about yourself at this point. And volunteers are doing great, and the Red Cross has been doing a good job getting volunteers. But I'll tell you, our Prairie community, we've supplied hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. Of our own parents and students have come out to really rescue us. So that's been amazing to see them really get involved, and you probably saw that tonight just by the amount of clothes that were brought in.
Steve, I have to say I'm not surprised.
I'm not either in our community. It's been wonderful.
Thank you very much for everything that you're doing. It could happen. It could be days and weeks that we're still having to have these shelters. Speaking of which, Freedom Festival in Cedar Rapids is supposed to start next week, postponed until we don't know when.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's nice to see all the volunteers out there, and really amazing people donating. A lot of young children out there, and it's nice to see them giving back.
If you would like an opportunity to give back, Coralville is put out the call for help. Volunteers, let me read this before I say it out loud. Volunteers are no longer needed at the former truck stop. All sandbagging and volunteer efforts on Saturday and Sunday will be operated at or dispatched from the Streets Department at the Camp Cardinal Boulevard, located south of Highway 6 in Coralville. Volunteer efforts are appreciated, so they will need you then from the Streets Department. That's at 750 Camp Cardinal Boulevard, located south of Highway 6 in Coralville, where they are going to be having some volunteer efforts. They ask that you please bring shovels and gloves. Michelle, you want us to take a look at some video now? This is a live Hawkeye from our Iowa City Coralville Hawkeye. It's getting darker outside, which means, of course, it's going to be more difficult to see what the water is doing, but we've been hearing updates through the night, and Joe's been monitoring those levels that the water is getting higher in the Iowa City Coralville area. We're still monitoring what's going on. We have not received evacuations. I'm checking our information line here, and I'm not seeing any right now. But that 500-year floodplain in the Iowa City Coralville area is what they've just been telling us all day long. Be ready. It's been a few hours now. It's almost 9 o'clock. That means for 3 hours, you cannot get to Iowa City or Cedar Rapids via I-380. At 6 o'clock, they shut down the interstate at North Liberty up to the Shueyville-Swisher exit because there was water on the roads. And some of our teams of reporters that have been traversing I-380, reporting from Iowa City to back in Cedar Rapids, have said they see why. There's so much water on the road, they simply had to close it down. What you're looking at here is the flood of 2008 I-380 area, so we want to show you exactly where they have closed down I-380. You can see the North Liberty area to the right of your screen. What is darkened in red is where I understand they've closed it right where the closing is pointing up to the Shueyville-Swisher area. And you can see the water, the bodies of water under there, and how those obviously have swollen and covered up the interstate. Here is the detour. And when I say the detour, I'm not kidding. If you want to go to Iowa City to Cedar Rapids, you're going to have to travel west on 80, north on 35, east on 20, down 218 or 380 to get you to Cedar Rapids. A trip that would normally take you 25 to 30 minutes will now take you 4+ hours. And when the DOT did the same thing near Tipton on I-80 and rerouted traffic through Dubuque, Dubuque has been dealing with a tremendous amount of backup. And what they did there is they actually still let local traffic go through the Tipton area in Cedar County when they closed I-80. They are obviously not allowing that to happen here in the closing between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City on I-380. Josh Hinkle joining me now, and Josh, you had the unfortunate task as a reporter to know. We're going to talk about Columbus Junction, and that's not unfortunate at all. You've been working 2 stories today, really, probably more like 3. The one being that we have confirmed the first death of the flood of 2008 here in Cedar Rapids. We do not have a name yet.
Right. We know it's a 59-year-old woman here in southwest Cedar Rapids found in her home.
And we're going to bring more on that story in just a little bit. But right now, you took a trip to Columbus Junction, and the word junction there should be emphasized.
Right. Well, we've been seeing Cedar Rapids, all this water backed up for 5 blocks from where the river's supposed to be. Well, when it all disappears, where is it going to go? That is why we headed to Columbus Junction. Roll that video, please.
A levee 9 feet tall is the only thing standing between Columbus Junction and the water rising from the north. Mike Winters and his daughter are 2 of the volunteers helping build that barricade.
Compared to 93, the rate is coming up, I would say. The amount of people, the more help we've got from surrounding communities.
More than 80,000 sandbags stretch a half mile. But by the end of his interview, Winters wasn't sure that would be enough. He hurried off to tell the city water just started pouring out the storm drains downtown. People quickly began working to protect their businesses and move out anything they could. The record flood of 93 brought water to the base of this loading dock.
There was an engineer here yesterday, and he said that the levee probably won't hold that they build, but it's just going to slide off.
Many in this town of 2000 don't believe the city is prepared for this flood.
Like as tall as me, and like I feel like it's like people are gonna have to swim to get places.
City officials expect a crest 5 feet higher than 93.
We think we're prepared, and all we can do now is kind of stand and watch and keep our fingers crossed and pray a little bit.
30 National Guard soldiers now block roadways to the river, and mandatory evacuations are already in effect for a dozen families.
They're moving out, but it's not quite up in my mom's house yet, so she's still there.
Columbus Junction sits in the worst spot possible for a flood. A half mile to the north, the Iowa and Cedar Rivers meet and will eventually send down more water than this town has ever seen.
So that's what it's like in Columbus Junction, and they're bracing for their crest on Monday.
Okay.
When I got back here to Cedar Rapids, some unfortunate news. We did learn that we have the first flood-related death here in Cedar Rapids.
And, you know, we heard word that there might be a body in the water, and you immediately went on the street. You traveled to St. Luke's Hospital, and you actually filed this report a little bit earlier. If we could go to that now, and this is from just, I think, an hour ago when you first discovered that a woman had died in a flood-related death in Cedar Rapids.
Sure. I am here at St. Luke's Hospital in Cedar Rapids, where we have just learned about the first flood-related death here in Cedar Rapids since the flood started. Joining me now is Linn County Medical Examiner Donnie Linder. Donnie, what happened exactly?
We found out this afternoon the police were called to residents on the southwest side where family members had found their relative unresponsive, and when police got there they determined that she indeed was deceased, and they called me. We will be doing an autopsy on her tomorrow. This is a lady in her mid-50s. Family has been notified. At this point, we're keeping her name under wraps right now just till we figure out what's going on. We know that she did die, but always in an autopsy we determine the manner, whether this is accidental or natural, whether she died before the flood or if the flood indeed was an asphyxial type of death. But we'll know more tomorrow.
She's a 59-year-old woman living on the south side. Can you say anything about, where she was found exactly?
Yes, she was found at the foot of her steps. In her basement. She was face down in some water. I don't know the depth of the water or whether this occurred as a result of her falling down the stairs and getting knocked out, or whether she asphyxiated due to the water.
Do you know if this particular house where she was found was in part of the evacuated area?
I do not know. The police would know that.
And were you there when her family was there at all?
No. I've been here at St. Luke's. We've been really busy here. The police have notified me. I have seen her body in the morgue here, and then tomorrow we'll have a full autopsy done.
Now, I hate to ask this question, but are we expecting that there might be more things like this to come up as the flood continues and as more people start to look for their loved ones?
Unfortunately, I would expect that we do have more flood-related deaths. Obviously, I hope that we don't. We have had quite a few just flood-related injuries here in the emergency room. But as far as the deaths go, we had ample warning that this was coming, but just time will tell.
You being here in the ER, so close to where a lot of these injuries are coming in, are a lot of them flood-related?
Yes, we are having flood-related injuries. We're having people that are volunteers that have gone out to help people, people who are on boats that are searching. I just had a gentleman who unfortunately amputated his thumb in a boat propeller, and I just finished reattaching that.
Well, I do appreciate you talking with us. Thank you very much.
All right.
Just to recap, we had a 59-year-old woman found dead in her house on the southwest side of Cedar Rapids by her family. An autopsy will be conducted here at St. Luke's tomorrow morning. Back to you, Bruce and Beth.
And that was Josh Hinkle, who filed that report a little bit earlier tonight regarding the first flood-related death of a woman in Cedar Rapids. They have not yet released her name. They are notifying her family, and we offer our condolences, of course, to this woman's family. And we hope that Donnie Linder was wrong and that we will not come across more bodies as the waters recede and they start going into these homes. But we certainly need to prepare that could be a very real possibility. An area of Palo in Lynn County has seen flooding first. I would argue not first, but because it's right there before Cedar Rapids on the Cedar River, and it is a small community, and it is a tight-knit community, and it is right now a desperate community for information.
Yes. I've had several calls in the last, I think it was probably an hour ago that we first brought the video to you, and I've had several calls, several emails, people wanting to know what I know about Palo. I'm one of the very few people that's actually been inside the city with information about Palo. So here, let's take a look at the video. First of all, this was a boat tour. This is right at the very beginning of it. I'm not positive. I'm sorry. I'm not very familiar with this area, what the name of the streets are. I know I was at Lynn Street at one point. This is when you first come into town, I believe, off of 94. F Avenue turns into 94 there. As you can see, I mean, every house in this town is underwater. Some a little bit less than others, but if you live in the heart of Palo, it's a pretty good bet there's water in your house. And the fire department there and the city officials are being very, very protective of anyone getting inside there. And now that I've seen it with my own two eyes, I can completely understand why. You don't know what would happen if you got into your home, if you open up your door to your home or your business. The water is so high, first floor, second floor in some cases. you know, you never know what could come gushing out at you, and we don't want another situation like we had here in Cedar Rapids, and the city is simply trying to protect you from that. When I was there, I saw a lot of people trying to figure out why they're not allowed inside the city limits. What you're looking at now is, I believe that's a Phillips 66 station there in Palo. That's completely underwater, as much as you can see there. Water up to at least, I guess that'd be the second level if there is such a thing on that building. But it's like you're swimming in the middle of a lake. And the interesting part is that one thing, see this fence right here, it gets a little deeper down the road, or I guess you call it a road right now, the river. Yeah, down the way. We actually went over top that fence, and you'll see the camera shake here in about a second. I had the camera on my shoulder, and all of a sudden we hit the top of the fence. Wow. That's the first time I've ever been on top of a fence on a boat. I think I can safely say that.
I think that we've said so many things we thought we'd never say, and add that to the list.
Yeah, see, that's when we hit it right there. So you can tell. That's the playground, the city playground there. Now this is the city's community building. That's underwater as well. Like I said, I'm not really familiar with Palo. Sure. I know Dubuque.
But they're thanking you right now.
Yeah. But what I can tell you is that you know, there's an older section of town and a newer section of town from what I'm seeing, and the older section is where most of this video comes from. But that doesn't mean that the rest of the town isn't underwater. I was having some camera troubles. You know, we've all been having a lot of hard work and stuff. So the camera kind of gave out halfway through this tour here. So I want you to know, if you're in the newer section. One of the firefighters that I was with said that the houses were built in the early 90s. If you live in that section, those homes are underwater as well. I just wasn't able to get there with my camera, unfortunately, but I did see that. And
how far underwater are the newer developments?
That's where a lot of the firefighters live. And a city councilwoman with the first name Paula. Oh, she'll be mad at me for not remembering her last name, right? Yeah. I don't have my notes in front of me with her, but. City Councilwoman Paula's home is in that area, I believe, and she said a lot of her family members also live there too. This house here, this is the fire chief's house, I think. That's what I was told by another firefighter. I believe this is the fire chief's house, and he said he's gone by in the boat several times, and he can't go in either. You know, he's following his own rules.
And you were talking, Katie, about how the city leaders of Palo are just as frustrated as the people of Palo.
Oh, absolutely.
And they are urging, you know, as I'm sure the people in Cedar Falls and the people of Cedar Rapids desperately want to see what's going on with their houses, but the city leaders are saying, we have got to keep you safe first. You cannot go in there. We're sorry. We could do more for you.
Yeah.
And so if we could just please be patient. They're doing the best that they can.
And they're really, you know, they're tired. They're wiped out, as you've mentioned several times. But all these people, they're human beings just like the rest of us. They're wiped, you know, and they're tired, and they're doing what they know. This is the first time a lot of people have dealt with something like this. This is the first time that I have. You know, I'm sure it's the same for a lot of people.
And you know,
and you know, the people in the city leaders there in Palo are just trying to understand what to do, and they have limited resources there, and they have limited forms of communication. So this is a reason why they wanted us to come out there and get this video, so we could show you the pictures ourselves. So if you're sitting in hotel rooms or at loved ones' homes, you can see what really is going on there and just how much water is there, and that's why you're not able to get close. And you know, they told me that they'll get people in just as soon as they can, but right now they're just worried about the safety of everyone. So.
Katie, thank you very much for that coverage from coming in from Dubuque, where they're not experiencing this level of flooding, so that you could help bring TV9 coverage to the other parts of eastern Iowa, including Cedar Rapids. Michelle, I understand we now have, these are photos of Central City. Aerials of Palo first. We have aerial snapshots from the Palo area.
This was taken yesterday, I believe. That we had. This is the top.
Newer development.
Yeah, a lot of people when I was there today were asking, "Oh, I'd love to see aerials." Well, here's your chance. This is what it looks like from above, and as you can see, there is really water everywhere. And I believe, Beth, I think this is the newer subdivision.
Okay.
See that little road that's below the houses? I guess right underneath those houses. That's where I came in on the boat, and I went out into the water that way.
And these videos are on our these photos are on our website under the U News portion, so people can go and look at these pictures.
Yes. Yes,
And
indeed.
was that a car there? Is that a house?
I think, yeah, that's the house. That house is kind of off, whatever. I'm sorry, people in Palo, I don't know the name of that road that runs along there, but that's the subdivision off to the top left-hand corner of your screen. That's the houses I was talking about that are less underwater.
Yeah, you can see the street there
right.
even.
Everything else is completely underwater. This is the cream of the crop here.
Sure.
That's what's looking the best. And the house, you can see that's kind of more middle center right of the screen. Yeah, that one's pretty well under too. You can see that again there. And we kind of went out right off the like if I was going off the screen, to the right is kind of where I took the tour. And then there's homes, down that way that are older part of town, all underwater. And then the new part that's even further out, where some of the firefighters that I was telling you about live. So.
Katie Wiedemann, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Beth.
We're going to hear some crackling in a moment. Katie Wiedemann's going to switch out the microphone with...
Handing it over to the big man.
Yeah, Bruce Downey is going to rejoin us. We want to let people know we've gotten some information from American Eagle. It says if you were planning on flying out of Cedar Rapids between June 12th and the 18th, if you were planning on leaving Cedar Rapids by plane between June 12th and the June 18th, and your ticket was issued no later than June 12th, so it was not issued after the flooding started, you can change your reservation to begin travel as late as June 20th for flights into or out of Cedar Rapids, Dubuque, Des Moines, or Moline. Pretty much what they're saying is they understand that travel conditions may not be conducive to you getting to an airport, so you are going to get a little bit of a reprieve here from the airlines to reschedule. Here is the phone number for American Airline reservations, 1-800-433-7300, 1-800-433-7300, and you can discuss with them the change in your travel plans. We also want to let you know Bremer County Communications Center is experiencing some problems. If you need it, if you have an emergency, you can still dial 911 and that will get through. But the Bremer County Communications Center is having problems with its phone lines, and they believe it's because of complications that McLeod is experiencing. If you have any potential or actual emergencies, please do dial 911. But if you're in Bremer County and you do not have an emergency, but you still want to get a hold of one of those officials, here's the number to call: 563-578-3241, 563-578-3241, or 319-352-0982, 319-352-0982. Let's bring Bruce back into the fold.
I was just reading this email here from Rochester, the little town along the Cedar River. And have you
I'm not familiar with
this?
Rochester. No, I have. I just read this myself and I started to tear up, and I thought
it's unbelievable. She's telling how her daycare just basically floated away today as the river came up, and it's just another example of there are so many spots like this where we wish we could get to them, but there are just too many, and we only have so many people, so many vehicles, so many reporters, and some of them, like you say, we literally can't get there. She says that because all the bridges are closed, she knows we can't get there, but I mean, that just tears your heart apart when you see something like that.
We also have another town that we have photos of, if we could go to those, of Central City, and these are snapshots of what that area is experiencing as far as flooding is concerned. We're trying to reach every corner of the flooded areas in Iowa that are in our viewing area. There you see a sandbagging effort that in Central City, and the water came up regardless.
There's
you run out of things to say about it.
There is. I have to say, my sister called me from up in Minnesota, and I was just curious on how I was doing, and I had a hard time. It's amazing how many hours I've been on television talking about this with you, and I suddenly had a hard time talking to my sister about it.
No, I'm putting that off.
You do run out of words because it's hard to describe to someone who can't see this what exactly we are going throughout eastern Iowa. Small towns, big towns, rural areas, the farms. We don't talk. We haven't even shown farmsteads out there that are flooded.
No, the crop
they're
situation.
All over. The farm fields, right?
I received a phone call in the newsroom 2 nights ago when the flooding first started getting pretty out of control, and it was from a news service that we often use video from, and they take video from us. And the woman on the other end of the line asked, are you having some sort of flooding or something? And I was so overwhelmed with, you know, she's from outside the area. I think they were calling from New York. I hung up. I couldn't even talk to her.
Yeah.
Because it was just, you know, we've just been in it so much.
I don't know. While we're watching the flood video, there's another story today that is just really shocking to all of us in the news business, and we don't have much information in front of us because we've been focusing on this so much. But the death of NBC's Tim Russert is, he, according to what I've read, he died from a heart attack. And that's really for all, I think, people, NBC viewers and people who are political junkies and everything else really get involved in watching Meet the Press on NBC. It's such a startlement. Is that a word, startlement?
It is today.
It is today. But I mean, it really is a shock to all of us, especially those of us in the business who followed him for so many years.
A familiar name.
Yes.
In TV, he's not in it for the ego. He was, you know, he's a consummate professional. I worked for an NBC affiliate for 6 years, and although our paths would not cross directly, we would work with his people on different things. And you know, I learned a lot just by watching him.
Right.
You know, not just in what he was telling me news-wise, but the way in which he presented himself and he conducted himself on air.
Questioning.
Oh, he was tough.
Tough questioner. And
we'd like now to go to TV9's Back to Flood coverage, Justin Foss, who is live in Cedar Rapids. And Justin, you brought us information earlier about people needing to turn off their sprinklers by 8. We really hope they heeded your advice via the city.
Yeah, in fact, we are waiting for an update right now from the city on just if that worked. But, you know, it was around 7:45. Somebody from the city came up to me and said, hey, Justin, I need you to get this information on the air immediately that most cities, most automatic sprinkler systems, you know, for your yards are set to go off at 8 o'clock. And they said, if those start going off, we are toast. And you know, I was just over in the bathroom, and I didn't flush, but I did use the sink just to test to see the water pressure, and it's still going. So I know that's good, but like I said, I'm still waiting for an update from the city just to see how everything is going. I will tell you, the good news with the water is that it is receding. If I can have photographer Randy Dirks show you my proverbial cone. We're going to have our cone cam go for a second. That I just moved out there to be in the water, probably about 5 minutes ago. And there's no water along the front of it anymore, and I'm starting to see that there's the water on the back is going away. So that we will keep track of for the rest of the night, just to show you just how fast the water is receding. You can mark it at about 9:20 right now. That's probably 20 feet in front of the railroad tracks. We'll see how that goes throughout the night. But that water back there, it is moving fast. If I can show you this video from earlier tonight. We went on a boat trip with the DNR today to be able to show people just what it's like downtown. And I know we've showed this video a few times, but it is just so unbelievable, so amazing that we wanted to show it again. You can see just how fast the water is moving. When we zoomed in on some of the poles and whatnot, you can really see the current around it. And that was pretty much the only way that you could tell that the water is moving as fast as it is. Because so often you'd look out on this water and you'd think, well, that's not moving. What do they mean we can't get to where we need to get to? Then you get into that water and it throws the boat immediately. Just it takes a hold of that boat. It throws it sideways, throws it forward, backward, for them to be able to get out onto that. It's quite amazing just to see how fast it's moving. It's also quite amazing to see just how fast it's going down. I know it seems it's like it's going to be forever, and it's going to be several days before this water goes down, but you can see it is making progress. Even while we were downtown, you can see that there were marks on the sides of the buildings, you know, how high it had been and how high and how low it is now. Probably about an hour ago, I know I was speaking with Bruce, and Bruce, we were talking about how quickly the water is going down, and there's a mark on the ground that somebody spray painted here on 2nd Avenue for a high water mark, and I think it's probably about 10 feet, maybe 15 feet this direction from me. And now you can see where it is there. So Bruce and Beth, I mean, that's pretty drastic when you look at just how far down that is.
Justin, we just wanted, I'm sorry, I'm reading emails while Justin is recapping what's going on as the river levels are receding, and people are begging for Iowa City Coralville coverage. We hear you. We have 2 crews that are there. We temporarily lost power in this building, and we had to evacuate, and we had to start a new generator. We are trying to get back to Iowa City. I understand we have video in-house. If we could rush it upstairs and even run it raw, we have got to show them what is going on in Iowa City. Is that it? Did that work, me shouting like that? That's amazing. That never works at home. I'm sorry if you hear the desperation in my voice, but I just feel for the people in Iowa City, this is what's going on right now. We don't have, we can't tell you exactly what we're seeing. We don't have a shot sheet, but...
Well, you're looking at North Riverside Drive right there, how the water is up a good ways on that stop sign. I can't see what the cross street is on that particular intersection, but here, street blocked off.
And if we could get Steve Nichols on the phone, he could probably tell us
yes,
the
he could tell us
situation
exactly
to Mark Gary.
where all of this is.
But this is video that we are just now showing you from the Iowa City Coralville area. We have not received any mandatory evacuations from that area.
No word of evacuations for quite some time. In fact, since early this afternoon.
Yes.
So we're looking for information from there too. Coralville city offices, their phones went down. Remember that they were asking people to, they could still call 911 for emergencies.
And they lost internet service in much of that area.
But we are, we're trying to emphasize that the real crisis spot now, Cedar Rapids, the water is starting to drop. It's very slowly dropping, but it's starting to drop. The big crisis area next is going to be Coralville and Iowa City. And we have to get more information from down there. We've been showing that 500-year floodplain from time to time, the map for that, which is very hard to really see exact neighborhoods and the streets, the cross streets on that. We're giving you a few reference points that hopefully are helping people out. But you can see how widespread the flooding already is there in Coralville. I believe this is, I'm trying to see this monitor. Is that the university softball fields?
Steve Nichols, our Iowa City reporter. Steve, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We have been sort of unplugged from you for a while because of the power situation here. Tell us everything.
Okay. All right. Yeah, with that, I think that was a softball field. I'm looking at a real small monitor here, trying to get a sense of what that video is. This looks like Iowa Avenue, and that was just under the Iowa Avenue Bridge, which is closed to traffic right now. This looks to me like it's the Iowa River from probably the Burlington Street Bridge. Again, shots of the Iowa River you're looking at here with the water just flowing. It's at such a high level. That might be Riverside. Does that look like Riverside to you, Matt?
Yes, there's a sign, Riverside, right there, Steve.
Riverside, yeah. I might be a couple seconds behind what you guys are seeing here, but that sign, that is by the Arts Campus, is where that is. Clap Recital Hall, the Art Museum, the Art Building, and that's all been flooded and closed out for now. A lot of those buildings were evacuated yesterday and today. It's kind of hard with this monitor I'm looking at. I see kind of a yellow bar on the screen. I don't think that's on everybody's TV, just my monitor, so it's a little tough to see. But this looks like just mostly areas of the University of Iowa campus that we're looking at right now. And you're able to see just how high the water has gotten in some spots. And it's interesting because there's about 19 buildings, is my understanding, that the University of Iowa is going to be forced to evacuate at some point, whether they already have or they will here today or into tomorrow.
Steve,
so
that's
a lot of
what's
work
been
being done by the university.
That's what's been so surprising. I would say for 6 hours now, we have not received any mandatory evacuations from the Iowa City Coralville area. And from the video you just showed us, is it because the people are already evacuated? Are there no residences there, or what's going on?
No, well, the University of Iowa is kind of working on. I mean, I don't want to say it's working on its own, but it's doing it. In a sense, it is, and they're telling the university is telling its employees, hey, you can't be in Clap Recital Hall. The theater building was evacuated earlier this week. We did stories on that. The IMU, there have been signs that people were out of there by yesterday, and so there might still be work, but none of the daily operations are going on. I was talking with the Iowa city manager earlier today, and he was telling me that there are no more planned mandatory evacuations at this point. They've taken care of the real heavy residential areas where there were already, and that was done in the last couple of days. He said there might be some businesses here and there on South Gilbert Street and South Riverside Drive where there might be some more evacuations, but that I think that's, if I remember correctly, he was saying that might be more along the businesses end, and they might kind of recommend, hey, if you might want to take a look at moving, but it's up to the business. The mandatory evacuations from the city are pretty much done at this point, and they're just telling everybody, you know, if you live, I think they're saying if you live in the 500-year floodplain, that you might want to get ready because there's a good chance that flooding will come your way, and it's best not to let us get to mandatory evacuations. Let's just get everybody out and get prepared and realize the severity of the situation beforehand.
So those evacuations basically have just covered those small areas, but that are very, very flood prone, that they know are going to flood for sure. But we've been told that anywhere within the 100-year floodplain, which extends beyond those neighborhoods, according to our maps, that those people are going to be flooded out.
Yeah, well, and that's my understanding as well. They did, but they have done. It's been a few hundred homes at least, you know, with Normandy Drive and that kind of park. I think it's called Park Terrace area. And kind of referred to affectionately in Iowa City, I think, as kind of Mosquito Alley. And that area has been evacuated. And then you have Foster Road, which is the peninsula out by where the dog park is, and there's a big church out there. That area has all been evacuated. In those two areas alone, you have a few hundred homes. And then Iowa City, I was just commenting with another woman about this just a few minutes ago before I started talking to you, that it's not as flat right around the water. I don't have the impression that it's as flat right around the water as, say, it is in Cedar Rapids. And so I think that goes up, but then you also have the University of Iowa that encompasses a lot of property right alongside the river. They have a lot of riverfront property, and if you count their 19 buildings that are going to be evacuated, some of them multiple stories, if you turn those, if you looked at those more like apartment buildings, you would have a lot of people being forced to move. But at this point, the university, you know, they're workers and it's a business, so they're able to kind of get out, and nobody's really living there anyway. I think there's still a sense that the water hasn't risen as much as it's expected to. And I think, it's possible that tomorrow or Sunday, the city manager and Iowa City will say, okay, we need to start making sure that people are out of here. But I think they're trying hard to get the point across that the flooding is going to come. So take care of business now, and that way everybody will be saved a little bit of grief on the other end.
Steve, what about the water situation as far as drinking water and the sewage treatment plants, sewers? Is everything as normal?
Yeah, my understanding is that both Coralville and Iowa City, the drinking water is fine, that there's no problems there. But there are issues with both, with treatment plants in both communities, sewer treatment plants, just that they're basically getting full. And so what that means, and what I've been hearing from Coralville specifically, is if we have another heavy rain, like the heavy rain we had last night, then they're going to ask people to limit the amount of water that goes down the drain. There hasn't been any talk, like what's going on in Cedar Rapids about no showers, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But they would want kind of a voluntary minimizing if possible. But that's if there's heavy rain. With the nice day that we had today, I think that may have helped a little bit in kind of getting things cleared up a little bit, so that right now the drinking water's fine.
And we are. Oh, go ahead.
Well, you're giving the impression then that the city people in both Coralville and Iowa City pretty much have things under control right now as far as exactly what they want as far as evacuations and different areas of the city, and they're focusing on possibly evacuating others in the next day or two, but right now they're sitting right where they want to be sitting, except for the water level, of course.
Yeah, I think all things considered, we're in a relatively good position, and I think a lot of that might have to do with just having the extra time, being one county south of Cedar Rapids and having a river that meanders a little more east-west has really proven to be beneficial and given a lot of heads up and a lot of warning. And there's enough people in Iowa City who remember what was going on in 1993 to know how significant and serious that was, and so they're not joking around. And then when they keep hearing it's going to be worse than 93, it's going to be worse than 93, then the work just doubles. And we're going to be showing you some video here in a little while. I don't think we have it up yet, but in a little while we're going to be showing you video over at the Coralville Marriott where it's just a strong, concentrated effort of people sandbagging and just going to town all around the Marriott and the Iowa River Landing District in Coralville, which is kind of Coralville's pet project right now. The area that's really been paying a lot of attention to, a lot of money put into. So
Yeah.
a lot of work is still going on. But yeah, I think people are feeling fairly confident right now.
And we had video from the air yesterday that John Campbell shot of the Marriott complex around there that already the water was pretty high yesterday there. So that definitely that is a new complex, and they would be working their little tails off to prevent that from losing that there in Coralville, because it really is a beautiful complex.
Steve, what about traffic in the area? Earlier today we had reports from the city of Iowa City where they're saying get out of town if you don't belong here and get off the roads unless you're going to walk or use a bike because our emergency trucks aren't able to get through. Has it sort of died down?
You know, it's amazing. It really has. We were in Iowa City within the last couple of hours while you guys were dealing with all the technical issues in Cedar Rapids. We went over to Iowa City, and I think that message got through really to everybody. It was, you know, driving around in Iowa City on a Friday evening is usually a chore, but this was not bad at all. And the important thing though is that it needs to stay that way. That's what the city leaders want. They want, in case anything happens, you know, the water, if it hasn't already gone over the levee by the IMU, it's very close. And so when that happens, there's going to likely be some problems around the campus, the University of Iowa campus, and they want to know, the city and the university need to know that they'll be able to get to any emergency that there is as quickly as possible. And so it's very beneficial to have people off the roads. There are still, don't get me wrong, there are still a lot of people who are out on the Burlington Street Bridge, and they're kind of leaning over the railing, taking pictures of the river. And it's impressive to look at. It's flowing really fast in the Iowa City area right now, but those people are standing there. It's not like they pulled off to the side of the road or stayed in their car and started taking pictures. I mean, they walked to downtown Iowa City and will walk back and then get in their cars and get out of the area. So that has really been beneficial, and I think the city leaders have to be extremely pleased with how that message has been taken to heart by the community.
So, you know, Steve, we really appreciate you getting out there and taking a look. Where, if you had to describe from what you've seen, where is it flooded the most right now?
Where is it flooded the most? My initial thought would be Normandy Drive. Because that's where the first place people were evacuated. So I can only imagine that's only gotten worse. We drove by on Interstate 80. We drove and took the Dubuque Street exit just to take a look at how the water has risen up from City Park by Mayflower Dorm and up to Foster Road, where there's been a lot of evacuations. And that is you can't tell that there was ever a river that was, you know, a couple hundred feet from the road, that there was ever a road there. It is just, you drive down and they have barriers saying this is where you stop, and the road is completely covered right behind those barriers, and there's no telling how deep it is. I can only imagine that it's pretty deep, and it's so wide it looks more like a lake at this point than a river.
Steve?
Well, Steve, we thank you for keeping us up to date here on what is going on, and actually it sounds like we said that they have things pretty much where they want them in Iowa City, as they're just waiting for all of that water to be coming down the river, Iowa City and Coralville, we should say. We hate to see the flooded scenes that are there already, but this is the new 500-year flood map that we've put together for Coralville. You can see trying to read off this monitor, the Rocky Shore Drive there in First Avenue and 8th Street, and all along the Coralville Strip there, Highway 6 down to Rocky Shore Drive. That area, that's where the flooding is already happening, right, Steve?
Highway 6 from 10th Street, which is off to the west, and heading east down to First Avenue, as you mentioned, and Rocky Shore Drive. Yeah, that's all closed. Rocky Shore Drive has been closed. Rocky Shore Drive, when you take that'll take you basically to Normandy Drive. So that's been closed for a few days, and the water is definitely all over the road there. And just as it is, basically, I would think that it's maybe from 2nd or 3rd or 4th Avenue all the way to Rocky Shore Drive, and maybe a little bit past Rocky Shore Drive, Highway 6 will be covered in that area, is my understanding. It's hard. We can't get very close to that at this point because, I mean, we're back at our spot where we've been all night on First Avenue in between 5th and 6th Street, and so that's about as close as we can get, 5 blocks away. So.
Yeah, and I can see where you are on this map. You are within that floodplain as well, right, where you're standing right now. So.
Yeah, and you know, that has a lot of people wondering, you know, because we are in that 500-year floodplain. But as I was telling you, Coralville is really sloped up, and First Avenue seems pretty steep. And there's some of these businesses. I'm at a gas station, but there's also a car wash to my south, and then immediately following that is a Burger King. And the Burger King has standing water in the parking lot from the rains from overnight. But then the driveway for this car wash is really slanted, and I want to say it's, I mean, by no means am I an expert in this, but I would guess it's 5 to 6 feet from one end of the driveway to the other end of the driveway. That's going south to north and rising in elevation at least 5 or 6 feet, I would think. So people up here from pretty much beyond 5th Street, north of 5th Street, I think can feel pretty confident that the water is not going to get to them. There are people there are businesses that are on basically right alongside the river along First Avenue. You know, the Marriott, for example, and then that comes up from beyond that area up to First Avenue. But there's a Motel 8, there's a couple motels, there's a new restaurant called The Edge, there's a fast food Arby's up there. Those places might have some problems, but I think even those are pretty well up a hill. So I think again, I've been using this phrase cautiously optimistic. I think that's kind of how you have to be. Nobody knows for sure because we've never been at this point before, but it seems like this would be a pretty safe area where we are.
All right, Steve Nichols on the phone with us from Iowa City, giving us an update on what has been going on with the evacuations and everything else and the preparations in the Iowa City Coralville area.
We have an update to bring you from the Des Moines area. They did a voluntary evacuation in portions of downtown Des Moines, and they now have decided that the gauge they were using to read the river, the Des Moines River and the Raccoon River, was faulty, and that the river was much lower and has crested both the rivers, the Raccoon and the Des Moines. They've crested much lower than anticipated. So now officials in Des Moines are saying, we think we made the right call when we called for this voluntary evacuation because we were reading the numbers, and the numbers, we can only go by that, even though they were later to be found faulty. That is what the story going out right now from Des Moines.
Well, they remember 93 over there in Des Moines as well, where the flooding was absolutely devastating. So I'm sure they're very relieved tonight, would be a good way to put it.
They say they're not totally out of the woods, although those rivers have crested in Des Moines. It is still sort of a situation where it's wait and see.
Josh Nichols, I guess, is Josh Hinkle. Okay. Combining reporters.
Morphed.
Josh, you're in downtown Cedar Rapids, so what do you have for us?
Well, Bruce, I'm standing on dry land where just a few hours ago that water you see back there was up to here, but it has crept back, so the water is receding here in Cedar Rapids, but everyone keeps asking, where's it all going? Well, we headed to Columbus Junction today to find out.
A levee 9 feet tall is the only thing standing between Columbus Junction and the water rising from the north. Mike Winters and his daughter are two of the volunteers helping build that barricade.
Compared to 93, the rate is coming up, I would say. The amount of people, the more help we've got from surrounding communities.
More than 80,000 sandbags stretch a half mile. But by the end of his interview, Winters wasn't sure that would be enough. He hurried off to tell the city water just started pouring out the storm drains downtown. People quickly began working to protect their businesses and move out anything they could. The record flood of 93 brought water to the base of this loading dock.
There was an engineer here yesterday, and he said that the levee probably won't hold that they build, but it's just going to slide off.
Many in this town of 2,000 don't believe the city is prepared for this flood.
Like as tall as me, and like I feel like it's like people are going to have to swim to get places.
City officials expect a crest 5 feet higher than 93.
We think we're prepared, and all we can do now is kind of stand and watch and keep our fingers crossed and pray a little bit.
30 National Guard soldiers now block roadways to the river, and mandatory evacuations are already in effect for a dozen families.
They're moving out, but it's not quite up in my mom's house yet, so she's still there.
Columbus Junction sits in the worst spot possible for a flood. A half mile to the north, the Iowa and Cedar Rivers meet and will eventually send down more water than this town has ever seen.
The river there in Columbus Junction is expected to crest on Monday sometime. The good thing with all of this, though, is they've had a lot of time to see what's happening to the north, a whole week, what's happening in Cedar Rapids, Coralville, Iowa City. So they are prepared because they're seeing this major flooding up north, that what's going to happen with them they can be more prepared for.
It sounds like that's exactly what the people in Johnson County are doing. They've seen flooding, but they also saw it coming, and they're preparing. So we're sort of at a wait-and-see moment as well for the people of Johnson County.
Exactly what it is for us here, too, just waiting for word from the people down there who are in charge of all of the preparations and everything to find out exactly what is happening in those two communities. We are going into a weekend now, which is good as far as the traffic problems we've been running into with the detours on I-380, actually around I-380, I guess is a way to put it, and the detour on I-80 with that the water over the road at mile marker 266 to 267 in that area. So that'll ease the situation a little bit tomorrow, just going into a weekend.
I don't think you've heard this because you were coming in from our
remote
studio that I refer to as broadcasting out of a van down by the river. The Lynn County Public Information Officer has told us that if people have businesses in the downtown area that you can access from the skywalks, and the skywalks lead to the U.S. Cellular Center, you can go tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. to the U.S. Cellular Center Parkade, leave your vehicle there, they'll take you through the skywalk to your place of business, allow you access inside to gather documents, important things you may need to retrieve. People may not be able to reestablish themselves into these businesses for a while, and they need to get back up and running, perhaps from a satellite office, a van down by the river, in order to keep this business alive, and they're giving them this opportunity tomorrow.
But these are, from what you're saying, are people who would probably on second and third floor offices and that type of thing, because the main street level offices and stores are still
gear.
Right. But I mean, we can't answer that for sure, but that sounds like it, because there are a lot of offices and complexes.
Shuttleworth and Ingersoll in the U.S. Bank building.
Right.
I mean, one of many. We would like to take a look at new aerial snapshots of the Cedar Rapids area, and it just is amazing. What is...
That's that railroad bridge, I believe that's that Crandick Bridge that went under.
Difficult to get your bearings.
Sometimes looking, there's the OSIDA building at the bottom of the screen, and we're going through these pretty quickly before we can really establish where some of them are. There's Mays Island.
The water's totally gone over the green space there between.
Trying to.
So many times you see aerials of Cedar Rapids.
Quaker? This must be a Quaker.
When it's not flooding and you use the Cedar River as a gauge to tell you where you're at, where you are.
We're going through these, every time I think I have a reference point, we flip to the next picture. So that is, well, there we go.
These are today pictures from the Cedar Rapids area. They're snapshots from Adam Orton.
There's the library down there on the left side. That is not an easy thing to try to recognize buildings from the top when you're...
And we're kind of far away from the monitor here. I believe I can see the Alliant building, and there's 380. Right. There's 380 sort of wrapping around in a curve in the top of the pictures.
That's just a little farther away even more. But you can see how far that water extends from the river in that shot.
I just can't tell. There's 380 again. Very good reference point. Is that the Alliant building?
Yes.
In the lower right-hand corner?
I think that, that's Green Square Park there, I believe.
And they're coming in I-380. You know, there was a lot of concern yesterday that 380 would be overtaken by the floodwaters. And if we need to think of a few things that we're grateful for, it would certainly be that we were still able to access through the city via I-80.
By the U.S. Cellular Center down there. Interesting shots all throughout the entire downtown area, and boy, you really can tell from there's the railroad bridge and the boathouses down there
that have been trapped.
Mays Island again. But you really get an impression from this on how, looking in this residential area, how far that water has reached.
I mean, it's just bled out everywhere.
And it is...
What is that white thing?
That's another plane.
Okay. Is that the original Cedar River, how it should be?
It looks like it's pretty close to what should be the river banks. How dirty, brown that water is, too.
It's attracting bugs like you wouldn't believe. The downtown area is starting to feel like out of Africa.
It's just, we just keep showing pictures.
Those are the boathouses.
Those are the, right, again.
That are caught up on that train bridge.
Mays Island again with I-380 closest to us. That's
Quaker.
Quaker. This is Quaker. That other other shot might have been a Cargill plant. Different angle. You can see
Quaker,
First Street,
close to us,
Second Street.
I'm sure that red roof
Church
building
down
is a landmark that people are recognizing right now. Michelle, are these pictures on our website? People, if you're out there and you're seeing these photos and you think, oh, I think that's my house right there, please go to kcrg.com and check out these photos. I know we receive email after email. Some of them are getting a little hostile. People demanding that we get footage of their home. We don't have unlimited access. We have extraordinarily limited access, but we're trying to bring you everything humanly possible. We want to break away from these photos for just a moment and go back to Iowa City, where TV9's Mark Geary is there on the phone. And Mark, have you talked to the people of Iowa City or Coralville and how they're dealing with the waters that are rising?
Bruce and Beth, yeah, they're doing the best they can to try and work through this situation here. It's, they've seen what's happened up in Cedar Rapids, and now they're trying to kind of work with it themselves. We've seen lots of people sandbagging over near where the Coralville Marriott is at, and a lot of people here just in the area are kind of a little nervous about how they're not able to really have a clear route up to Cedar Rapids at this point. People are trying to figure out, what they're going to do next at this point. Some people, of course, work in Cedar Rapids that live down here in the Iowa City area as well. And as you know, the worst is yet to come here, it appears, in the Iowa City, Coralville area, and that's kind of what everyone's concerned about. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, the mic light is off, so we can't tell if we're on.
It's hard to tell if we're able to talk to you or not.
I believe we went on a boat tour before we headed down here, and I think we might have that video.
Yes, we do. We have the video, and that's Mark. You're going to kind of take us through it, but we don't have it now. We understand. So,
Mark, we're sorry that video has been misplaced. But could you just tell us more about Iowa City, Coralville? Steve, he was on the line earlier. He said that it's kind of calm there because people knew it was coming and they're preparing accordingly, and it's pretty orderly.
It really does. It doesn't, it doesn't seem like anybody's kind of in a kind of a catastrophe or a disaster mode at this point. Just kind of getting what they need to get done at this point to try and prepare for this. And I think they've watched what's happened up in Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and Cedar Rapids. So they've had plenty of time now to kind of see what has happened in these other communities, and they've been preparing all along here down in Iowa City. They've seen what's happened in those other communities, and now I'm guessing are much more prepared in a sense because they kind of know what to expect.
Have you talked to any city leaders in the area and what they're doing to, the crest is still coming in the Coralville, Iowa City area.
Oh, yes, the crest is still not until Tuesday that they're predicting it. And so that's like 4 days away yet, a little close to 4 days. So that does give them time.
Yes.
But the water is still rising down there during that 4-day period.
Mm-hmm. So, Mark, how was it getting to Iowa City? You said it was no problem getting there, but you could tell right when they were closing down the interstate, people trying to head north on 380 were having a lot of problems.
Exactly. It was. We thought that we were kind of concerned. We wanted to get down here because we wanted to have another crew here in the Iowa City, Coralville area because we knew 380 was getting shut off. So we kind of rushed to get down here, and it was kind of funny because there was maybe only, I'd say, 15 cars headed that way, headed down south. But when you looked in the other direction going north, the traffic was just backed up for miles. And really not moving at all. So it was just a complete standstill. But yeah, we had absolutely no problem getting down here. It took just as long as it normally would if there was nothing happening.
Mark, we need to interrupt you because we're showing the video of your boat tour along Ellis. I believe this is along Ellis Boulevard this afternoon in Cedar Rapids.
You just went under the bridge.
Yes, that's 380. I can actually see the video from where I'm at right now. And that was us going under 380. We actually had to duck our heads down because the bridge was that close to us. Just incredible to see it that high. At several points while we were on this boat, the bottom of it actually scraped against the top of street signs. And when there are stoplights, we had to duck underneath the stoplights, which was just, just surreal to see that actually happening here. In addition to that, it is dangerous to be on these boats in a sense because you don't know what is floating underneath you. They said there's still a lot of cars that were left in the streets, and the way that the fire department can kind of tell what's below them, at least to some extent, is by looking at the way the current is flowing above it. And when there's a car underneath there, there's kind of like a little bubbling effect that goes on. You can see that's one of the churches right there in the downtown Cedar Rapids area. And as we move along here, we did end up getting over in the other sections of Cedar Rapids. We went over by Taylor Elementary School, and we got into the Czech Village area as the video plays out. You can see also the tree branches as well. There are power lines, and the current, I think, is something that a lot of people don't realize either. It's just very, very quick moving, and at times we just had to be really cautious of it because we try to be, going in one way, and we had a motor on the boat we were in, and it actually, would not go the direction that the captain was trying to make it go. And at one point, we kind of bumped into a power pole, which was kind of scary for a while there, but we were able to kind of get out of the current tide that we were in.
What is that, Mark? What is that park there?
That right there is Taylor Elementary School.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see that their playground is, totally underwater, and you can imagine, not only are all of these homeowners going to have to deal with how they're going to clean up after this, but think about the school district here as well. They're lucky that school is out for the summer, but that is going to be a big cleanup mess there at Taylor Elementary School as well. We went by the A&W, which is over there in downtown Cedar Rapids area, and it's been there for a very long time, and it's completely underwater. All that you could really see was the sign sticking up out of the water. At one point, we went over to rescue a woman, but unfortunately our camera died out, so we weren't able to bring those pictures. But this woman was inside of her house, and she literally had 38 cats in her house, and had stayed behind because she was concerned about those cats and their welfare. And finally, she just realized that she needed to get out of there, so they were carrying, 4 of these crates full of, 5 or 6 cats in each one out of the boat with her. And then finally they got her to come out, and she was, still reluctant to leave because there were still more cats inside there. And, a lot of people, when they are being rescued, they carry, certain possessions. And this woman, all that she carried out with her was a giant basket of cat food. So, she was just very concerned about, the welfare of her animals.
Mark, we're running your video again, and we just want to apologize to our viewers. We're pretty big sticklers on editing video to make it clean. The video is going in and out, but we just wanted to bring it to you as fast as possible. This is raw video of Mark's tour. And Mark, if you could just sort of do a play-by-play of what you saw as you see the video.
Well, this is 380. That's the bridge, and again, as we said, we're kind of ducking underneath that, and you can see that there's a stoplight. Look how close that is to the water there. And as we're going along the street here, you're starting to see some of the homes as well, and just how high the water is. It's just incredible. And right there, see that big black tanker thing there? That's a tanker, and they wanted to point that out to us, especially because while the firemen were out rescuing people last night in the complete pitch black, that came coming down the river and came right at them, and they had to dodge that. And they said they were just terrified because it's pitch black, and you see that big black drum coming at you, and they just had to barely miss it at the last second there. So it was just kind of they made a point to say, look at that thing that was coming right at us last night. But we're still out here because there are still people, and that they need to rescue. And they also told me that they fear that there are still a lot of people who may still be in these homes who are staying there for various reasons, whether or not they're scared or, they have pets or animals.
But the thing is, there are shelters, I just get to a point where I'm frustrated. There are shelters that can take the animals unless there's a medical condition that has prevented these people from from being able to get help. If it's just stubbornness, I just feel like I'm at the end of my patience, because
Exactly.
the emergency people are putting their own lives in danger, being out there and having huge tankers coming at them on this river that's running rapidly. You know,
and that's exactly what they said. You know, and they were saying that, you know, we understand that people, you know, see their pets as, you know, part of their family, and they don't want to leave them behind. But at the same time, you know, every time those boats go out, they're putting their lives at risk in certain ways. I mean, we were in one neighborhood, and they realized that, you know, some of the lights were still flashing, and, you know, that, of course, means there's a live current going through that water. So they made sure to kind of steer us out of there as fast as possible. But at the same time, they said, you know, they know this is important work. This is, you know, a historic thing here in Cedar Rapids, and people have never seen anything like this before. And certainly, many people probably didn't ever think it would get this bad. And then, you know, when they're trapped in there, they don't really know what else to do. But a lot of the ways they're getting people out is by, you know, they see people waving in the window. You know, and that's one way that they know that someone needs help. They finally, you know, realize they need to reach out. But the firefighter did tell me that, you know, that they wouldn't think it would be really all that out of the ordinary if they did find more people who had simply passed away inside some of these homes once the water recedes, because, you know, it did come up so quickly, and, you know, some people just were not prepared for it, and they said that is just going to be the real hard part.
As Mark, we've already had one body found in a home in southwest Cedar Rapids, and that is something that the medical examiner Donnie Linder told us earlier, that they do fear that there is that possibility of finding more people in the homes once the water gets down and people get back into their homes.
And in that situation, Mark, I don't know if you had heard this update, that a 59-year-old woman on the southwest side of Cedar Rapids was found face down at the bottom of her stairs in the basement of her house that was in an evacuated area, and the basement was filled with water. Her family had grown concerned. They hadn't heard from her recently. They asked for the emergency crews to go and check on her. When they did, that's when they discovered the body. There will be an autopsy tomorrow. Donnie Linder, the Lynn County medical examiner, wasn't sure for a cause of death. All he could say is he believed it was flooding related. She could have had a heart attack. She could have been electrocuted. You know, we hate to speculate, but it's just very sad. This is what the people of Cedar Rapids and all the other communities that have experienced flooding, we wanted to avoid first most.
I want to just interrupt here, because this is a shot of I-80 east of Iowa City. And you can see how the water, how much of it is covering the interstate, and we now, when you look at that, you can understand why that section of I-80 is closed. We're getting pictures like this in from viewers, and we really appreciate that. This is actually courtesy of the Iowa DOT.
And you can see why they had to close.
Oh, definitely. And this is the reason for that huge detour for any traffic going across the state from like Illinois over to Des Moines, or back across from the Des Moines area into Illinois. They're sending them up to Highway 20 and across to Dubuque and then down.
An update from the area of Waverly in Cedar. The Cedar River at Waverly is forecast to crest at 15 feet late Saturday night. Waverly way north on the Cedar River, obviously, than what Cedar Rapids is. And they have experienced rain recently. Yesterday, quite a bit of rain. And they're expecting it to crest at 15 feet late Saturday night. The level would be comparable to the flood of 1993. The river is expected to begin rising Friday afternoon, and this is rising again.
Yeah, the Cedar is rising in Charles City, the Little Cedar at Ionia, the Shell Rock at Shell Rock, and this is all because of those huge rainstorms that went through yesterday, dumping just unbelievable amounts of rain on areas that are already so saturated and already flooded. So it was something that nobody needed, but yet the rain just kept coming. And now we're seeing the result of it with these river levels going up again. Joe Winters was explaining that to us earlier this evening, that it's probably not going to cause another crest in areas like Cedar Falls and Waterloo and Cedar Rapids, but it will probably keep the flood level much more steady for an extended period. So the water level, it's just going to take that much longer to drop and get back down to...
just hold it steady for a more extended period of time. This is traditionally the time when we're beginning our 10 o'clock newscast. This past week has been anything but typical. But we'd like to pause for a moment and reestablish ourselves. We'll see you, 3.5 seconds.
And good evening. We are continuing our coverage of the floods of 2008 as many communities in eastern Iowa and larger cities are still battling these flood waters.
We'd like to begin our coverage in TV9 Steve Nichols' neck of the woods, Iowa City. Steve, you've been in the Coralville, Iowa City area all day, and you and Matt Nelson have some new video and new information to bring us.
Yeah, we do have some new information. It has been a lot of hard work going on getting up to this point for people trying to fill sandbags and build barricades around their buildings, and the work continues even at this moment, this late hour here. Work in Coralville, people are building sandbags. We've had trucks going out to the Coralville Marriott. We can show you this video. You would see, this video isn't going to show just yet, but trucks coming in just filled, these huge monster dump trucks filled with sandbags. More than 100 or so volunteers, people filling sandbags around the Coralville Marriott and the whole Iowa River Landing project. That really is Coralville City, the city of Coralville, kind of the pet project is they're really trying to develop this area and make it something really special and nice, and the last thing they want is a 500-year flood to come in and ruin things before everything is up and running. And so there's a lot of Coralville Marriott employees working on the sandbags, getting some work done. We talked to a couple different people to figure out why they're doing this work. Let's hear from one guy in particular, the few different reasons he gives for wanting to volunteer and save the property.
I live in the condo. That's what brings me here. Plus, I'm relatively new to the community. So this is my payback, my volunteering.
And a welcome party.
Yes, actually, we have a good time doing this. At least I do, because it's so much different than what I do for the regular job.
Yeah, I think that everything is so much different. And here you see people really are working hard. This guy with the front end loader, making sure he gets his pizza in his mouth while he's working. And we give him kind of a hard time, but Pizza Hut did deliver about 40 pizzas to everybody working out there, and they a well-deserved break as they needed to get some nourishment there. And I'm told that there was a strong discount on the pizza, so that helps as well. But a lot of work done around the Coralville Marriott, all around the Iowa River Landing as the water is getting close to sandbags. One interesting point with that is I asked a couple of people, how high are you building this wall? How high does the wall need to be? And a couple of people said, 8 feet. And I asked them, why do you say 8 feet? And it just seemed like a good number at the time. You know, they still really don't know how high everything needs to be and what exactly they need to get done. But the energy level is there, and the want and the desire to save everything is there. And so they're working, and they're working hard. And it is good to see so many people wanting to help out. Beth and Bruce?
We certainly hope that if 8 feet is what they're targeting, that definitely will be enough there around the Marriott. Steve, while you're waiting, we're just going to throw in a little piece of information here about the Coralville City office phones. They are down, and this includes the police department's routine lines. But if you have an emergency, you can still dial 911. For the routine calls in Coralville, call the Johnson County Sheriff's Office at, this is a non-emergency number, 319-356-6020. But emergencies, still dial 911.
Steve, we understand you have more from us from that area.
Yeah, you know, there's been, while we were just talking about all the sandbagging efforts, some sandbagging efforts have proven not to be beneficial. That is a downside to what happens when the water rises, and if you're working hard and you don't necessarily get it done. We were out on the area of 5th Street and 2nd Avenue earlier today, taking a look at some of the water that was flowing by mailboxes and street signs and kind of lapping up to the front doors of homes. One guy was telling me that he thought the water raised about 3 feet or so overnight. A lot of that, I think, is due to the heavy rains. We were out in the area a little bit later on, and the water had only seemed to come up about 6 inches or so. But still, it gives you a sense that these are pictures that are very similar to what Cedar Rapids is seeing at this point on a much lesser scale, although you definitely get the point as the water is basically taken over streets and neighborhoods. And we talked to a couple people down there who are working this morning and trying to just get a grasp, a mental and physical grasp over the amount of water, the sheer volume of water that basically appeared in their homes this morning.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I can't even believe that it's up this far. That it's covered all of 5th Street right here is unbelievable to me. So, I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see how much higher it comes.
We sandbagged all we could, but it just came up so fast. And I was kind of, 4 days ago, I was kind of laughing, thinking, oh, it's not going to get this bad. And then we're sandbagging yesterday, and the guy comes by and says it's going to be up to my windows sooner or later. So.
And that is really what we're anticipating, that the water could be up to the windows of people's homes at some point. I'm sure we've reiterated these numbers several times throughout the last couple of days. They keep changing, so it's important to just let everybody know. The latest flow totals, to my understanding, 50,000 cubic feet per second could be flowing by the time we reach our peak here, and that is expected to be sometime on Monday. And to put that in perspective, that is almost double what we saw in 1993. Not quite double. I think the number there was a little bit more than 28,000 cubic feet per second. So really an astounding number. The level at the reservoir is expected to be about a foot over the record that we saw back in July 1993. That was 716.75 feet, and we're expecting 717.7 feet, so just under a foot above the record. And those numbers, unfortunately, have kept increasing day in and day out as we've progressed through this week. So hopefully history will not continue to repeat itself, and tomorrow those numbers will stay the same, and everybody, I think, has their fingers crossed that they might even go down a little bit. But at this point, while Iowa City and Coralville seem to be doing a fairly decent job on keeping things safe for the most part, there have been a lot of evacuations, but some things just, there's no way to handle them. But for the most part, kind of on par and meeting up with deadlines, so to speak, to get everything done in hopes of waiting for the new numbers to come out tomorrow. So hopefully those numbers will stay the same. People might get a little bit of a break, or even get in some cases a jump on the water coming down, because this weekend it should really start to rise this weekend getting into Monday. That is the latest from Coralville. Steve Nichols reporting live in Coralville for KCRG TV 9 News.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
We understand there is a situation in Cedar Rapids where a Marine fell from a rescue boat, and Josh Hinkle is live with information about that. Josh?
Yeah, Bruce, we've been getting calls at the station about someone being pulled from the river over by St. Patrick's Church, or possibly a boat capsizing. So we wanted to get down to the bottom of it. I just got off the phone with Sergeant Christy Hamblin from the Cedar Rapids Police Department. She told me that a rescue boat was out, not doing a rescue at the time, just looking to see if anything was needed. A Marine, not a National Guardsman, a Marine was leaning too far over the boat as it was going down the river. He fell out of the boat and hit his head. He does have a minor injury to his head. It was treated at the scene, but he was never unconscious, and the boat never capsized. So we just wanted to verify that information for all of our viewers to make sure that they didn't think something more serious had actually happened.
Well, the other things, Josh, story that you've been covering tonight is the really sad one, Josh, and that is the fact that we now have discovered there is one death from the flooding in Cedar Rapids. Could you tell us about that?
Sure. I spoke with the medical examiner for Linn County earlier today at St. Luke's Hospital, Donnie Linder. He did confirm that there was a flood-related death here in Cedar Rapids. A 59-year-old woman died in her Southwest Cedar Rapids home. Her family went to perform a welfare check on her because they hadn't heard from her in a while, so they were getting worried. So they went to her house, and they actually found her body face down in some water in her basement at the bottom of the stairs. There was water in her basement, so the Linn County Medical Examiner is technically calling this flood-related death. But until he does the autopsy tomorrow morning at St. Luke's, he will not know the exact cause of that death, whether it was drowning, electrocution, a heart attack, something else like that.
Josh Hinkle, thank you very much for those updates, and we certainly hope that the Marine is able to recover. And we do appreciate all the efforts of all the emergency crews out there that are putting themselves in harm's way, especially at nighttime.
Yeah, it is so dark out there.
There's no, I mean, it's not just that there's no street lights that's to be expected. There's no headlights from cars going through the area. There's no home lights.
Right, it's dark.
Porch lights, even a bathroom light. It is pitch black. There you can see it.
Yeah, there's just a bit of an example. You see some lights there. This is Iowa City here.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
there are some lights still on there. But imagine like that video Mark Geary was showing a few minutes ago before 10 on the Cedar River, a rescue boat out on the water last night, and this huge tank came floating down the river, this big black tank, which made it even harder to see right at their boat, and luckily they missed it and are okay. But
it's difficult to remember all of the people that we want to extend a thanks to for what they're doing. Even people, I read a story about a family who was evacuated from their home and someone bought them lunch at Red Robin. I mean, people are doing things large and small to try to help each other, and your good deeds are not going unnoticed.
It's been more than 4 hours now since the Iowa DOT closed I-380 from Cedar Rapids to Iowa City. Actually, it's just a small section there between Swisher and North Liberty that's actually closed, but that is affecting the entire interstate from Iowa City to Cedar Rapids, and this is the detour that the Iowa DOT has put together over to from Iowa City to Des Moines and up to Highway 20 on I-35, then over to either 218 or 380, and then back down to Cedar Rapids, 281 miles. Now, we have heard from people that they say there are some shorter ways, but we are not going to recommend any of those. There are just too many areas out there where roads are flooded. Roads are flooding that we don't know about 1 hour, and the next hour we get a report about it. So it's really, I think this is the one the Iowa DOT has determined is the safest by far.
We're taking a look at video from Iowa City just a little bit ago. This is from today, and the water, the Iowa River, is rising in Iowa City. And you know, they have had a little bit more time, it seems, than many other communities to prepare for these floodwaters. They've evacuated 19 buildings on the University of Iowa campus. There has been a massive sandbagging effort last night at the IMU, the Memorial Union there on the Iowa City campus, sort of the meeting place for students and faculty. And people are sandbagging in a number of different areas in the Johnson County area. If you are needing a shelter in Johnson County, the Johnson County Fairgrounds has plenty of room, and a good thing there, they're also accepting pets. So you can bring your pets directly to that shelter. They have a section for pets and a section for people, but at least it's all under one roof.
Yeah, also Northwest Junior High in Coralville, too. We, I guess, have a night tour of the flooding conditions in Cedar Rapids. Justin Foss is live with that right now. Justin, this had to be an adventure.
Yeah, it was actually. I have to first credit our friends at Nightline. The ABC affiliate truck, they are just down the street from us. I've been talking with them all day, and they said that they were going to go out and shoot some special video for us, for them, and then they gave us this copy. So let's show this video here. This is a special nighttime boat ride throughout downtown Cedar Rapids. It lasts for quite a few minutes, and we're just going to let it roll just to let everybody see what the conditions look like. The nice part is I'm told from the DNR officers who've been out there that the current is starting to go down, but that is certainly a long ways from perfect. It's got a long ways to go, but the current is starting to go down. They also said that the water is probably down at least a foot from what it was earlier, late this morning and earlier this afternoon. They said that the water is down at least a foot from where it was. And you know, I've had my cone out here all last couple days, and you're starting to see it too.
Justin?
Side down from that. Yeah, Beth.
Justin, we can see the video a little bit more clearly than you can. It's just about dusk when you went on this tour, this boat tour through downtown Cedar Rapids. And we could see a little bit ago, I think it was the library, was it?
I think that was the YMCA, across from the Collision Center there, and there was a Casey's store on 8th Avenue.
3rd Street.
This is,
pretty interesting.
8th Avenue right here, yes. I mean, this water is so deep.
They tell me that as the water gets shallower, it actually gets harder to navigate because they're afraid of running into more things.
No, that makes sense.
The current's gone down quite a bit. What it was earlier today, it was probably.
You can hear him telling us the current has gone down.
And Justin, what are they looking for out there?
They're looking, to tell you the truth, they're looking for beauty shots. That's what we call it in the industry. They're looking for something that really shows you the devastation. You know, it's those pictures and that's that video that when you're standing at home, sitting at home, and you see it and you just say, "Whoa," that really appeals to the human eye, and that's what they're out looking for tonight. It's just kind of to try and put this in the best. Put it in the best and most understanding way.
And again, this is an ABC Nightline crew, correct, Justin?
Correct. Yeah. Well, it's part of it's an ABC affiliate, or an ABC national correspondent, and her team is out here.
Okay.
And tonight they're shooting for Nightline.
Now, can you tell which building that is over there on the left side of the screen, to the left of these guys.
Can't see enough of it there, too.
Yeah. I mean,
it's getting dark.
It's getting dark
hard
out
to
there.
see. I just can't imagine what it would be like going through these streets in the complete darkness like some of the rescue boats have done here. It's really getting dark now.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing. You look downtown and it is absolutely pitch black down there, and all we can see are the signs on the side of the road that are reflected from the lights we're shining here. All right, so that was the night ride tour. Like I said, the current has subsided a little bit, and the water level has gone down. But now we want to show you just some more of what it looked like earlier today. This dayside video, what it looked like earlier today, where the current was so incredibly strong. I mean, the current is still strong, but here it was much stronger. We went out with Dubuque photographer Joe Willis and I. We went out to go on the boat. It was his job to shoot the video and my job to look for debris in front of the boat.
It's moving very quickly when you guys were out there today. I mean, there's almost rapids.
Yeah, you know, I'm a big water skier, and I think at some point when we were going with the flow of the water, I probably could have water skied. We were going that fast.
And you're several blocks away from the actual riverbed itself here, and you can still see how powerful this current is in these streets.
Yeah, and to give you an idea, we're still several blocks away from that. We were near the YMCA, whatever street that was on, that's the street we were on, and they didn't want to get any closer to the river. That was it, because the current got too strong the closer you got.
The Y is at the corner of 3rd Street and 8th Avenue, I believe, so that that's about 3 blocks away from the actual, where the river is supposed to be. So to see this, the strength of this current in this distance from the actual river is amazing.
I'm told because of the strength of the current and because it is receding, the DNR is going to be bringing out bigger boats tomorrow with bigger engines to be able to navigate more of this terrain.
They want to be able to get across different avenues and streets without, you know, they just want to be able to get across them. With the horsepower on their boats now, it's too dangerous to traverse all of the intersections.
I know it's kind of hard to imagine that. You know, people have been asking us all night, why won't you show my house in such and such corner? Why won't you go to Rompat? Why won't you go to the Czech Village? And the simple answer is we just can't get there. The rescuers will not get there. They will not go there because the conditions are just too dangerous.
Justin, you make mention, you know, there's a large residential area in the Czech Village, and if the rescuers are saying that it's too precarious for them to get there, have they mentioned to you that they're fearful that there are people who did not heed this warning and possibly are there without fresh water and food and perhaps medication?
You know, I've asked that question and nobody's really wanted to answer it. I think some of them are afraid of what the answer might be. I mean, they don't know the answer to that. And so when I ask, they say, you know, really, I just don't know.
Sure.
And until we get there, they're not going to know. And they don't want to say, yeah, that they think there are people there. If there's not, they don't want to put that false sense of emergency out there.
Sure.
But they also, you know,
it's a possibility.
But yet, exactly. When you've been on some of these boat tours in the residential areas, we have seen signs of people inside some of those houses. Mark Geary said today they saw signs of what looked like could be people inside some homes. This morning, Dave Fransman was out and witnessed a rescue of a mother and son and their dog from the second floor of their home. So there very well could be people in some of these neighborhoods. We hope they're doing, you know, as well as they can, because we certainly don't want another instance of like the death we discovered tonight. We didn't discover, but I mean the death that was discovered in Cedar Rapids tonight. Oh,
completely, Bruce. And if you guys want to come up to me on camera here for a second, I want to show you something here. Randy, come up to the camera here. Speaking of what you were just saying, Bruce and Beth, what's interesting is, as I've been standing out here on 2nd Avenue for a little while, and Randy Dirks and I, photographer Randy Dirks and I, we were both, you're probably not going to see it, but there's a skyway way back there on 2nd Avenue. We think we saw a flashlight swinging through there. So we think both of us saw it, and we thought we saw somebody crossing back there. So if the police are listening, if someone's supposed to be back there, well, you know they're there. If they're not supposed to be back there, we both saw it with our own eyes and saw a flashlight swinging through that skyway
back there,
yeah.
Across the 2nd Avenue.
And you know, speaking of people being where they're not supposed to be, if that's the case, I spoke with the police a little while ago, and they said that there have been multiple reports tonight of looters in town. However, they said that they have not been able to confirm any of those reports.
Okay.
Well, that is, you know, hopefully that they are just rumors, and there have been a lot of rumors in the past few days that there are not looting incidents. One thing we've been very proud of in Cedar Rapids is we have not had a large number of injuries. We have had one unfortunate death, but there could have been so many more. And we haven't had the looting that you sometimes see after natural disasters, and we really hope to keep it that way. We have to applaud the people for keeping it that way.
We still have Justin? Justin. Okay. Okay, we need to ask him again about the situation with the water. He was earlier. Okay, good. Well, our producer's talking to us right now.
No, I received a news release
on the
Cedar Rapids. Now, this is not from the city. This is from the downtown district, and they work with the businesses in town. We've gotten a lot of complaints, and we've asked the question ourselves, how come residents are being so vigilant about not using water, yet there are businesses who are still operating soda machines and things of that nature that use a large quantity of water in their dishwashers. The downtown district is asking Cedar Rapids businesses to please stop using water, especially if you run a laundry, a restaurant, a car wash, and other high-volume water users. The city's water situation is at critical. The downtown area, they're going to have to turn off the water if people don't stop using it of their own.
Actually, my question to Justin was about the sprinkling.
The sprinklers.
Warning that they put out a couple of hours ago, just before 8 o'clock, asking people to turn off their sprinklers, and they were really afraid that just sprinklers that were going on automatically at homes and businesses might really be affecting the water supply. So hopefully Justin will be able to find out some information on that and whether that
our plea
whether the plea worked.
We're going to take a look at some video that Clark Kellett shot off of Interstate 380 along the side there, the bridge going over Cedar Rapids. This is, as I'm sure you're familiar, the First Avenue Dairy Queen. To your left of this this image, you can see a little bit of the roof going up. The good news, there's the Salem Church, the Salem United Methodist Church. We talked to Reverend Bibb earlier today, the Reverend at that church, and she had some inspirational words about the church is not its building, it's its people. And they will move on from this.
And we're closing in on a street sign here. This is the street sign for First Avenue and 3rd Street right there, southwest. And look, it is all the way up to the green signs. It shows you how deep that is. That church has beautiful stained glass windows. Claire was telling us that they noticed debris floating in the water, and they just had this horrible fear that something was going to smash into these windows at some point. And hopefully these windows will survive, because stained glass windows in a church like this are really, in a way, priceless.
And you can remove them if they're intact and replant them in a new structure later on down the road. And the good news that Claire, she was reporting alongside Interstate 380, the waters were receding at a pretty good clip. You could see the change over a few hours where the watermark was and then where it had changed to.
The Lynn County Sheriff's Office there, the old police station, that's a lot of water in the main floor and basement of that building as well. This is the aerial video that John Campbell shot earlier today. The boat houses on Ellis, from the Ellis Boat Harbor, quite a few of them that broke loose and are caught up against that railroad bridge. One of the owners called us and said that he noticed that some of them look in pretty good condition, and they're just hoping they can salvage these. It's going to be a job, because we're really hoping that that railroad bridge itself holds. There's the Dairy Queen again.
We just saw from a different angle, and this is really when the water was at its peak, when it crested around noon today. And there you can see Interstate 380. What you're looking at here is St. Patrick's Church. That's the parish center that they just recently built, and now we're into a residential area.
Yeah, we have video of the downtown area going along 4th Street, now along the railroad tracks. Water all the way through the downtown area here.
We were set up right near those tracks a little bit ago when we had to switch generators here at TV9, and the water was whipping so swiftly behind us right there on 2nd Avenue. And
there's the Y up at the top of the screen, the YMCA. This is that old bridge that the river just took out. Look at all the garbage down the right-hand side that's built up and up at the top of the screen, too, that's collected in those little inlets off the main river. Mercy Medical Center
is empty.
Yes.
Of patients. They evacuated last night, and there have been so many hospitals throughout the area, throughout the state, that have absorbed the more than 200 patients that were at Mercy Medical Center. St. Luke's took quite a few. University of Iowa Hospitals and Clinics in Iowa City took a number, and so our very small community hospitals have taken a lot of those patients as well.
Dr. Lindner at St. Luke's told us that St. Luke's emergency was very, very busy today, and I would think a lot of that has to result from Mercy's being closed as well, so they're picking up those patients. There was the library we just saw.
Obviously the Great America Building, and to its left,
that's
the Czech and Slovak Museum.
Beautiful Czech Museum building. The historic old house down there next to it, Czech Village. We've seen this numerous times now, and each time it's yeah, it really does. I'm responding to our producer. She said it sucks the life out of you, and I reacted to that. It really does. You just can't believe. I mean, this is our city. We live here. I know all of you watching are not from Cedar Rapids, but those of us who do call this our home, this is tough. It's the same thing for you in your community when you see the water taking over your community. It's extremely tough for you as well to see that happening.
These are some photos that a viewer submitted to us, and they go by a little quickly. If you'd like to see them more slowly, you can go to our website, kcrg.com, and inspect them. Adam gave us these pictures, and they are vast. He took a lot of pictures in a lot of the areas we are unable to get to. So if you can access our website and check these pictures out yourself. There's Mays Island on the left-hand side of the screen.
I think what this really shows in some of these shots like this one is, again, how spread out that floodwater is. It just seems to go on.
Oh, that's our Adam. Oh, he works the morning shift, so we never know. We never get to meet these people. Adam, thank you very much, one of our production assistants here at TV9 who took these photos for us.
Okay, we just keep looking at these pictures and just marveling at.
It's hard to get your bearings on what you're looking at.
Oh, it is because we're not used to looking at these buildings from the top like this.
Just the roofs.
Yes, and seeing the roofs.
And you need the Cedar River to tell you where you are.
The interstate actually helps us get our bearings on a lot of this. This is downtown, as you see, a little wider shot of downtown, and you can see again how far that water extends into the downtown area. This goes all the way up to your right to Mercy Medical Center. We're going to go to meteorologist Joe Winters in the TV9 Weather Lab now for an update on what's happening with our weather conditions and also a look at those all-important river levels again. Joe?
No, absolutely. We are going to do that. We're also going to look at some pictures, just some disheartening pictures that we just saw in Cedar Rapids. But the extent of this flooding really extends from northeast Iowa all the way back to the borders with Illinois and then back toward the central part of the state. And we were kind of searching around, and we found a website, the Iowa Department of Transportation, which shows us some areas that we haven't seen pictures of before. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. And Josh, that's I-80 east of Iowa City.
Yeah, that's right. Again, on the Iowa DOT's website, pictures. Again, I-80 east of Iowa City. That's what we're looking at there. There's a lot of great pictures on here. I-80 east of Iowa City. You can see the water completely covering the road, and that would be the Cedar River, very likely east of Iowa City. I'm guessing that's where that is, that low spot where the Cedar River does cross. And here's just another picture. This is why Interstate 80 is closed right now in that location for obvious reasons. And we do believe these were taken this afternoon, by the way. So another shot, kind of an aerial view there. And that is looking off to the east toward the Quad Cities, again, along Interstate 80. There's also some pictures, too, on the website from Highway 6 in Coralville, water over the road there. Here's another shot of Highway 6 in Coralville, completely covered with water. What else do we have here? US, again, Highway 6 in Coralville, the Pita Pit, looking there. Highway 6 completely covered with water. And there's all kinds of pictures from across the state, I-24 bridge in Fort Atkinson. I want to go back. We'll just kind of zip through these. We had some pictures of Highway 150 north of Vinton. Basically, it was broken. A good way to state it.
Right, and once you see this picture, you're going to realize why we always tell you to turn around when you encounter floodwaters over a road and don't drown, because you just don't know what's underneath that roadway. And look at that picture, Josh, on the right side of the screen. This is Iowa 150 just north of Vinton. Half the road is just washed away.
Right. Yeah, and you know, with water, current, water being there with a long period of time, that road can easily wash away, especially on the sides. And this picture right there, you can really tell pavement is gone, asphalt, just completely broken away there.
And there are similar pictures on this website that show some of the roads up toward Charles City as well. So if you want to take a look at that, that's the iowadot.gov website, and they have some flood of 2008 links. Wow, just look at that as the water was pouring over Iowa 150 north of Vinton. Again, the power of water just doing damage to those roads. Also on UNews TV at kcrg.com, I've been helping to post pictures as well. We have some from the Rompot area in Cedar Rapids. We have some pictures from areas that we have not been able to get to, so take a look at those pictures on our website as well.
We're just seeing these for the first time right here, Highway 150 north of Vinton.
And again, with water that would have been flowing over that road at that point in time, you wouldn't have seen that until you were in the middle of it. So again, just the perfect reason why you cannot cross flooded roads. Wow, look at the damage.
Right. And obviously this would be caused by the Cedar River,
right,
which is, of course, runs right through Vinton. Again, this is Highway 150 north of Vinton. So just some incredible pictures there. Here's another shot. North of Vinton on Highway 150. That's going to take probably a while to fix.
And again, all the areas that are currently flooding where we haven't even seen what's beneath the road yet. You know, we could see damage that equates to this as well. So certainly just some very, very devastating pictures all across eastern Iowa. Of course, we've been showing a lot of Waterloo, Cedar Falls a couple of days ago, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City right now. But boy, there's just devastation in many portions of eastern Iowa due to the floods of 08. And there we see some evidence of that. Do want to run down the river stages that we do have for you. These are the latest stages that we have from the Davenport Weather Service office. 19.8 currently. Our flood stage at 12 in Charles City, still nearing that secondary crest at about 20.1. Again, this was a secondary crest due to some heavy rains. The Cedar River at Cedar Falls now sits at 94.7. We're going to remain just about steady through Monday evening because of that secondary crest, and we heard, of course, about that secondary crest up in Waverly as well occurring. 18.9 in Waterloo right now. It is expected also to hold steady at about that level through Sunday night, so the water's again not receding any more from that record high of 25.39 earlier in the week. Cedar River at Vinton now sits at 22.1, continuing to slowly fall. That heavy rain again will cause the slow fall across Cedar Rapids. Right now, the latest that we have, 30.15. The record was set this morning at 31.12. It's expected by tomorrow morning to be down to near 28.52. It'll be at the 1993 crest level next Friday. So we'll still be 1 week from today at the level we saw in 1993. So that devastation again is going to continue because we just won't be able to get in some of those buildings or homes for a long period of time. 19.8 at Conesville, 20.6 on Sunday night. That's the expected crest. Iowa Marengo remaining mainly steady near 21 feet. The Iowa Coralville Reservoir now reporting 716.5. The crest was at 712, and we're looking at a crest here Tuesday into Wednesday at 717.5. Again, that's nearing the 1993 level. 30.6 now, the Iowa River in Iowa City. Still looking at a 33-foot crest on Tuesday morning, possibly a bit higher. The 1993 crest was at 28.5. The Iowa River near Lone Tree, 22.2 right now, 22.5 expected. That crest happens late on Saturday. Columbus Junction, that should read 28.9, 34 feet by Monday. One of the reasons that we're seeing the Columbus Junction River, the Iowa River crest sooner at Columbus Junction, that's where the Cedar and the Iowa come together. The English River also comes in at Columbus Junction, and as a result, the crest will be sooner in Columbus Junction than it will be in Iowa City. Once the Iowa City water races into Columbus Junction, it will be spread out, and they're not expecting a secondary crest. Wapsie at Independence, 15.7, will slowly fall below flood stage on Monday. The Wapsie at Anamosa, 25.8, a slow fall. And for those of you up in Dubuque, The Mississippi 20.4, a slow fall. One thing we do want to point out, this is a look again at the websites that we've been using from the National Weather Service to give us the river stages. And people have been asking, boy, Cedar Rapids is crested, now it's moving to Iowa City. Is it the same river? No, it's not the same river. We're talking about two different rivers. You can see here near Waterloo, and we're going to go ahead and illustrate this for you. Near Waterloo, all the way down Cedar Falls, Waterloo, Vinton, this is the Cedar River. And you can see, again, it goes through Conesville and comes together at Columbus Junction. The Iowa River from Marengo down through the Coralville Reservoir, through Iowa City and Lone Tree. So two separate rivers that we're dealing with flooding that we're talking about, particularly between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. So again, the crest in Cedar Rapids has nothing to do with the crest information that we see in Iowa City, as we have two different rivers that we're talking about. As far as the weather forecast, Josh, it looks pretty quiet as we move through the next couple of days.
Yeah, here's live first alert pinpoint Doppler radar, and we're not picking up on anything in eastern Iowa right now, and that's certainly good news. Here's a satellite and radar loop over the last 6 hours, and notice there's not many clouds over eastern Iowa. That's definitely good news. There's some showers up in South Dakota right now, but those seem to be dissipating. We don't expect any more from those as we head throughout the overnight hours. A lot of stuff is going to stay off to the east tonight. Here's pinpoint futurecast. Should be dry through the middle of the day tomorrow, but then Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening, it's going to be very warm tomorrow with highs in the low 80s. That could easily spark some showers and thunderstorms as we get into your Saturday night, and those could linger into Sunday. Some heavy rain, a potential, but then some dry time Monday through Thursday of next week, and a slight chance of storms next Friday. And the river forecast that we show you, the hydrologists at the Weather Service usually take into account rain that's on the way. So you can have faith, I guess, that the crest forecasts are fairly accurate.
Absolutely, and again, unless we can get some heavier rains that would happen on Monday and Tuesday, and again, at this point, that doesn't look like it is going to happen, then they would have to take that into account as well, some of the future forecasts. But right now, that dry period is certainly going to help us out and slowly let us drop those river levels in the northern part of the state while we're still watching the rivers rise across southern areas of Iowa. That's how things are right now in the Weather Lab. Again, the river slowly falling in Cedar Rapids, but still that crest in Iowa City expected at 33 feet. And again, Bruce, that doesn't happen until next Tuesday.
Yeah, that's a long wait right now when we're thinking it's just Friday night. Thank you, Josh and Joe in the Weather Lab. We have Scott Sable joining us now here on our new set. And Scott, you were at the Prairie High School shelter today, checking out the conditions there and seeing how people are faring.
I was. Yesterday I was at the Viola Gibson shelter. It's closed now, but there's still plenty of room at Prairie High School. Let's take a look at some video from Prairie if we can. They started out with 40 flood victims last night. Now they are over 200. And I want you to look at all the donations here. Toiletries, toys for the kids, they had everything. Piles and piles of clothes. They were stacked on top of each other. Shoes. This little youngster here found a brand new pair of shoes and they fit him. That put a smile on his face during a tough time. They had lots of food like spaghetti for dinner tonight. Look at all the volunteers. They have a medical staff at Prairie, and it's a good thing. A gentleman had a heart problem earlier today, and they were able to get the ambulance out there for him. It's a very distressing time for these flood victims, and I had a chance to talk to a few of them earlier today. Tammy, your house is gone?
Yeah, my house is gone.
Where do you live?
111 5th Avenue Southwest.
And you actually drove by and saw it's completely covered?
Yeah, we drove by on the interstate and looked over to our right and saw that it was completely gone.
That'd be a horrifying sight, huh?
It was very humbling. Very humbling.
What did you have in there? Were you able to get anything out?
No, my dad came back and got us at 5:30 in the morning, and at that time the water was up in the basement, the lights were still on. So the electricity was still on. We weren't able to move anything because the breaker was 2 inches above that where the water line was. We just decided that we just needed to take our dogs and my dogs and get ourselves out of there quickly.
So you have nothing. You have insurance. I mean, is there any way of getting any of this back?
No.
Boy, that's tough.
We talked to Senator Harkin today and actually came up and introduced himself to us, and he told us that that we're going to get help as soon as we can, but we don't know how long it's going to be or how much longer it's going to be rising. The river's going to be rising, so we don't know what's going to actually crest and start receding elsewhere.
So the toughest thing is not knowing what's next, huh?
Right. The toughest thing is the unknown.
Right now we have 189 residents is last count.
And that has gone up dramatically today, right?
Yeah, we were about 130 for most of the day, and then the last couple hours it's gone up dramatically. So right now we're about 189. We still have room. We can house 400 here, so if there are some people in need of place to go, we would encourage them to come to our shelter here at Prairie High School. We had people coming in with nothing, and we made a couple calls. Target was here, and we were able to take care of those folks last night, and it was just amazing what Target and then the Prairie community, as you can see today by all these things, what our Prairie community has done.
This isn't easy on the flood victims, is it?
No, this is hard. We had a gentleman yesterday tell me, you know, our floor was getting wet. He said, I thought I had about an hour and that we probably had to go. He said he opened his basement door and the water was right there. His whole basement was gone. And that just tells you right there. And you have, you know, we had some 2-year-olds brought in, babies last night. It's very sad. It's a very difficult time for all of us.
That's Steve Dozier running the show out at Prairie High School. He's also the girls' high school basketball coach. He's volunteering his time, and they're doing a great job out there.
Bless his heart. You know, it's hard enough for we as adults to really understand this at all, but imagine those little kids who are caught up in this and trying to, Mommy, Daddy, what is happening?
You see a lot of blank faces is what you see when you look at them. They're very confused with what's going on. That was nice to see the shoes. He saw those brand new pair of sneakers over there, and he said, hey, these might fit, and he tried them on and got a big smile. So that's very nice. Yes.
We're seeing that so much, Scott, in so many ways, people coming together and helping out. And
Iowa.
It's just, it really is. Thank you, Scott. And again, they have more room at, here I am, more room out there at Prairie tonight, too, for people who do need shelter. 10,000 people have been displaced in Cedar Rapids alone. So please take advantage of those shelters if you do need that. Mark is on the phone now from Iowa City.
That's right.
Mark is covering. There, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. We were right over by where the Coralville Marriott is, and there's been a sandbagging effort going on there all day. We have some video, I think, that was shot earlier today where you see a lot of volunteers working. And about 10 minutes ago or so, the National Guard showed up, and they actually are now helping in this particular site. And they told me what they're trying to do there is protect the power grid. They said they're concerned about that, and I asked the National Guard, was this some kind of a urgent, pressing need here? And they told me that it was just simply their next assignment. They didn't think that there was anything urgent, but that they were just told that this was where they needed to be. But now, basically, you see a lot of National Guard people there. There still are some volunteers as well who are working to fill up those sandbags to try and protect that area as well. As you know, the Iowa River is also, you know, affecting this area in the Coralville area. And it is expected to crest sometime next week, possibly on Monday, but already we're having some issues here in Coralville. Some of the storm drains are backed up now, and as a result, they're in some places having to actually pump out raw sewage and wastewater simply to allow the system to keep working. So they're just kind of pushing it out into a certain area here in the Coralville area as well. And, you know, the sandbagging effort is going on, of course, in Iowa City as well. All around the university, you see lots of people just pitching in, trying to save whatever they can, because they do know, you know, they've seen all those pictures that we've been showing you all week from up north in Waterloo and Cedar Falls, and now as it's moved down through the Cedar Rapids area as well, even though it is a different river, this is, you know, likely to see similar flooding here in the Iowa City and Coralville area, so they perhaps have had more time now to kind of think about and prepare and figure out what they need to do to stop this from happening. But again, with these kinds of river levels, it's really unsure if you can really do all that much to prevent all the damage.
Boy, I tell you, when you look at the force of the water, we had some pictures a short while ago, Mark, I don't know if you were able to see those or not, but of Highway 150 near Vinton and what the force of the water has done to the pavement on a highway, you know, you can picture what that force of water could start doing to buildings, too, when it starts hitting it. And when you have a new complex like that Marriott there in Coralville, boy, you do everything you can to protect it against that water.
Certainly in the Coralville area is, you know, very proud of that Marriott. It brings a lot of business and conventions here, and, you know, they don't want to lose that. That is kind of, you know, one of the gems as you pull into the Coralville area. And they're very concerned about protecting that, and there is a kind of a new development area around there where they've got some restaurants and some condominiums as well, and they're worried about that particular area as well. So, you know, a lot of concern here in Coralville, but, you know, the big water isn't here quite yet.
That's for sure. The crest expected to come on Tuesday morning in Coralville and Iowa City. We are looking to show you in just a few minutes some video from Palo, a lot of you have expressed interest in seeing exactly what the flooding conditions are in Palo, because that community 100% evacuated, and that community, we had some aerial shots earlier today that shows water all around Palo. They are not letting anybody in to check out their homes, and a lot of people misunderstand that and don't understand why. Well, public safety is the reason, but we'll be looking at that with Katie Wiedemann, who shot it on a boat tour this afternoon, in just a few minutes. We have some video from downtown Cedar Rapids right now. This is earlier. A national media person in this water, and you can see how the police are reacting to this. We understand this person is from a cable television outlet, and the police were not too pleased with him. Here he is coming out of the water. I have no idea what he would be doing down that far in the water, and it looks like the photographer was down there a ways as well. I even recognize him. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I think it's with an organization, I think, that goes by initials like CNN, if I remember correctly, yes. But they got him out of the water, thank goodness. That is ridiculous. Nobody should be out in the floodwaters like that. If nothing else, we've told you how the force of the water blew manhole covers right out of the street, and to go walking down the street like that, you don't know if you're going to step in one of those, for crying out loud.
Alliant Energy has sent out requests that we pass along what you just said, and the manhole covers have popped off in most of the areas that are flooded, 400 plus square blocks in Cedar Rapids, and they say if you were to step into one of those manholes, retrieval would be nearly impossible.
Yeah, and for one thing, if anyone even knew you had fallen into a manhole, I mean, if you're out there in the water, like we've seen some people wading around in the water by themselves, it's insane. It really is. That one sad story that we had to report earlier today was from the small little area south of Lisbon called Sutliff. There's was a historic bridge. I have to use the past tense now because this bridge, so popular for so many people for years, was over 100 years old.
And featured in the movie that was recently shot in Iowa, the final season, in it, Sean Austin is walking with his girlfriend along this pedestrian bridge in Sutliff, Iowa. They sit down and they share a lunch there, which is a behavior that's replicated time and time again. That's sort of what the Sutliff Bridge was known for. And we spoke to a guy today who's from the Sutliff Bridge Authority. He was so sad.
Yeah.
You know, he watched the first part of the bridge crash into the water. John Campbell went out there because he understood the historic value of what had happened in Sutliff, and let's see his story.
We're down here in Johnson County, right along the Cedar River. Behind me, the historic Sutliff Bridge. Actually, what remains of the historic Sutliff Bridge, part of it is no longer. It went down about noon.
All morning, of course, the river's been coming up, and logs and cabin came out of over there and got caught underneath there and just built up pressure. And then right around noon, another log hit it and just took out that first, the first arch that we have there. Yeah.
Loud explosion, or what happened?
A lot of crinkling and breaking steel you could hear. A lot of big splash. A lot of crying. People upset that we're standing here and watching, of course.
She's been standing there a long time, hasn't she?
111 years, yeah.
Well, we had a lot of people who was pretty upset, crying, because, you know, it's pretty much part of this community. And it's just one of those things. I guess Mother Nature just has a way of taking things once in a while that we don't want her to take.
The bridge isn't all that is gone. The river also pulled a cabin from its foundations and sent it floating downriver. As for the Sutliff Tavern, it's surrounded by some sandbags, and crews were pumping water in and out of the basement, trying to keep it from collapsing. As Chuck Kuhn said, you do not rebuild history. This bridge will never be the same. Right now, Randy Howell is just trying to save his business down here on the Cedar River. John Campbell, KCRG TV 9 News.
Oh, it really is sad to see that bridge go. And
you mentioned earlier you can't build back history. No. You can bring things back brighter, shinier, newer, but there's something about history and tradition, and getting to say that was something that I did when I was first engaged, and now my kids are going to be able to do. It's sad.
And John was telling us earlier about that bridge, how you would, and I remember that, walking out on it. I don't like bridges myself, so I'm a little queasy when I go out on a bridge like this. But you walk out there, and there are gaps in the planks down there on the bridge, and people, they love that. They love that old bridge, and sorry to see it's gone.
We had an opportunity to get to some smaller communities today, which is our goal at TV9, not just to highlight what's going on in the larger areas with the higher populations, but Katie Wiedemann is here now, and you actually took a boat tour through a community that has been devastated.
Yeah, that's Palo, and there's a community of about 900 people, and it is very close-knit. And we did take a tour today on a boat. It was actually a Lynn County boat. They gave us a ride. We were one of the we were the only people that as of when I went out there about 3:30 today, the only people that got a look here so that we could bring these pictures back to you. Obviously, you there in Palo are not able to take a look at that stuff for yourself, and they're urging that, very much urging people to stay away from that area completely. In fact, I watched someone get very much reprimanded and scolded by law enforcement today for being there. Now we're taking a look at the fencing along the baseball and football fields in the sports complex area in Palo. At one point, that fence is underwater. We actually ran over that with a boat. Now, these are aerial pictures. This is what we've seen from these are still photos, I believe, that we've seen from the top of from the sky there in Palo, and you can see all the new developments are underwater, all the old stuff's underwater, everything's underwater. And you can see that road there, that's where we took the boat off that road there, and everything that was off to my left when we took off from the end of that road there, that was underwater. Everything near the gas station underwater, everything near the community center underwater. All the new developments beyond that underwater. You can see that house down there, sort of towards the right lower end of your screen.
Alone there?
Yeah, all alone there, completely underwater. Everything looks like that too. I've had a lot of people call me, knowing that I went on this tour. I've had a lot of people call me and email me saying, did you see my house? Did you see my house? Because people are desperate, you know. I have literally an email from someone that says, I am desperate for any kind of information on my home. Can you please tell us? And this is the opportunity that the city has given the people that live there to look, is through us, because we were one person, and we were very much, I was looked after. I had I was with a lot of rescue personnel. I was with a firefighter. I was with a sheriff's deputy. I had a life jacket on, and there was no chance of me being in danger. I would hope at that with those that much security around. But they don't want people down there checking things out, because you never know how much water. You don't know. You just mentioned the manhole covers. You don't know what's under these floodwaters. Like I said, I walked on, or I floated above a fence. Can you imagine walking on top of that? Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that. So that's really what their main concern is, and they want to keep you safe. I know it's hard to think about it in terms like that. It seems like the city might be trying to keep you away, but in fact they are just simply trying to keep you safe, and they want to make sure that no one is hurt. We don't want to see any more situations like we've already seen.
We can understand how people feel on that, because it's your home, it's your possessions, it's where your family is, your kids are growing up and everything, and you want to get in there and see how bad it is. You know that the water is there, but you want to find out what's salvageable. Are we going to be able to repair this? And so there really is a desire to get in and just find it out. But please, people, you have to be patient and wait until they say it's okay. I mean, look at all this water.
And I think people really are antsy to find out, okay, did my grandma's wedding photos make it? And those are things, as you mentioned about history, Beth, you can't get those things back, but you can't get your life back either, and that's a big thing that they're stressing right now. And there's that fence again. The fence disturbed you. The fence did disturb me. It really did, because we hit it at the bottom of the boat, and it scratched the bottom, and I was so confused when we hit it.
Because what is it?
Yeah, I'm like, what was that? And it was, sure enough, it was a fence.
And another thing to point out that you had mentioned when we showed this video earlier was that the water, you could see it on some of the buildings. The water had been about that much higher. Like yesterday.
Yeah,
so it had gone down
the silver lining that they're finding, is that the water's going down. It sounds like not anything to brag about or anything to write home about, but they're holding on to something. They've got to, hang their hats on something, and the fact that the water is going down is good. That means it's getting closer. Things are going to start. The water's going to start going down. That means that's just the sooner as people will be getting back into their homes, and that's what people want.
And
in Halo.
moving forward from
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
And speaking of moving forward, there are areas that have been affected by flooding that have received the FEMA stamp of approval from the President that they can get some FEMA coverage. Lynn and Johnson counties have not yet received that designation from FEMA, so we've heard reports of people trying to call FEMA and don't understand why they're not getting help yet. They're waiting until they get the presidential disaster declaration, and I can pretty much guarantee you Lynn and Johnson counties will be included in that.
I'll go way out on a limb and say that is an absolute guarantee. It's again, though, there are certain steps that have to be taken,
Yes.
and they have to follow those, and they are doing it, I'm sure, as rapidly as they can.
Yes.
And again, until that water goes down and you're able to get back into your home, it's going to be a while before you can really do anything anyway. So that'll happen probably by the time the people are able to get back to those homes.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. We want to go again to Iowa City with TV9's Steve Nichols. Steve, we understand we have some very compelling new video that sort of takes us on a tour of what the water is doing right there on the university campus.
Yeah, Beth. Now, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to see this video yet, but I agree with what your assessment is. That's my understanding anyway. That is some great video to get a chance to really see how fast the Iowa River is flowing at this point, and
Steve,
and to get a sense of what's going on. If we can take a look at that.